Oh my god. I always get gagged a tad. Um okay, I'm going to go a little live here and then I'm going to go a little live elsewhere. Anyway, I'm like not sure what the quality. Okay. I'm always so shook about quality and it's like lo and behold, it doesn't even matter. Anyway, folks, hello. Welcome to another edition of me sitting here yapping and crocheting or I was gonna say crocheting and I did not. Yeah, I'm a crochet streamer. Now actually I'll be doing a lot of things. The thing is I've come to realization that I'm a just chatting streamer. I'm not a gaming streamer. I think what's really beautiful about online, no matter where you do it, is that truly a platform's not for something until somebody makes it for something. And I say that as if just chatting is not the hugest category on Twitch, because I'm both streaming on Twitch and YouTube. But I think for the longest time, I felt like if I wanted to feel like I had a place on Twitch or I belonged there or deserved to be there, because aside from what Twitch as a company has been doing, like the infrastructure of streaming and like the chat and all the plugins and stuff, I really love that aspect of Twitch. And there's probably, since I've started streaming in general, there's probably have been like YouTube equivalents to how Twitch runs that basically gives you a very similar experience. Because there's definitely other things on YouTube in terms of how their streaming works and interacting with VODs and stuff like that works that I think is much better than Twitch. But then there's also like from a interactive portion where you can like have alerts or have things go off when you type things in chats. I feel like that's more developed in Twitch, or at least I know how to do that stuff better in Twitch. I say that and I don't even have alerts or bits or anything. But I don't know. So I kind of just like to marry the both of them. But because I've been on Twitch, I always thought I have to be the most gamerest gamer. And the thing is, I like to game. I do. I like certain games, but I do feel like I would have a tendency to chase popular games because that's just the meta of Twitch. And also, I feel like when it comes down to it, I think I'm most comfortable gaming by myself. Um, I think I just inherently get a lot of pressure when I feel like people are watching me. Like I remember back when I would stream certain things, especially because I don't really have great hand-eye coordination, but when I would stream different things, especially where like I'm playing and you have to get through levels, I'd feel so anxious or like embarrassed when I wasn't good, when I had to do a part of the game like 7 times in order to complete it. And it would just stress me out because I feel like I already know that I'm slow at this kind of stuff. I already know I don't have hand-eye coordination, but adding that on top of like, okay, on Twitch you're supposed to be, or in live streaming you're supposed to be entertaining, would just make a lot of anxiety. Not to mention, I really like scary games, but I also acknowledge that I get scared very easily. So I do need to take a break when I'm playing if I get too anxious or whatever. And sometimes I'd be like, okay, I have to kind of power through this scary ass game because um I'm doing it in front of the audience and they don't want to see me stop in the middle of like the game or redo this part 8 times. So it's very stressful. So am I saying I will never game on live stream again? No, but it has to be a certain type of game. In particular, a game like Animal Crossing where I can both play and yap and I'm not like literally crashing out. um Anyway, so I'm coming at you. Oh, I should probably talk about the projects. So the last time I streamed, I was making this hat. It was a cat bucket hat. No, what is it called? A cat beanie hat. And y'all, why does this look like Dr. Seuss? I don't know. Dr. Seuss's daughter made this. So I still think that the color scheme of this eats the gray, the pink. I think that eats. However, I was like, I wanted to switch it up. So I added these ruffles. So it's like a cat beanie ruffle situation. And I immediately regretted it. I mean, the thing is, I can still undo this. But I was like, oh, well, this is not as cute as I thought it was. I think what I'm going to do is just tie this end up, try it on as it's supposed to be, and if the ruffles are ugly, I'll just take them out and make it a regular cat beanie hat. But that, like, I don't know, when I do something in terms of like creation or design and I'm like this is going to eat and it does nothing of the sort, I immediately am like So this doesn't exist anymore. Let's move on. But I do want to finish this because I do think overall it is a cute color scheme, and I don't want it to just be something that I don't ever wear because the ruffles make me look like, I don't know, like I'm saying this as if I've tried it on all together, but I haven't. So, but I want to finish this. And then I started another one with this green, dark gray, dark green color scheme. I really should have used the light gray, but I'm already like a couple rows in. What is it? 2, 4, 6, 7. I'm 7 rows in, and I think I do 18. So I'm almost halfway there. No, yeah, I'm almost halfway there. And I love a project where it's just a bunch of double crochet because you can see it build up fast, which is nice. But then it's really easy for me to kind of multitask when it's a simple stitch or a simple pattern. So that's why I always find myself, I'll do like I'll be like, oh, I want to make this, that, and the third. But then I'll always come back to making some sort of hat where I can just do mindless double crochet, because that's actually one of the things. I don't know if I talked about how I started crocheting, and I won't get into it too much, but I have a lot of anxiety, and I have a lot of like brain going a bunch of places, so often it's hard for me to pay attention. And I don't know what it is, but doing something with my hands makes it so much more, like, it makes it so easier to pay attention. So like if I've noticed, like, the whole phenomenon as like nobody can sit down and watch a movie anymore because everyone's brains, like, they want to go on their phone, blah, blah. I'll say in some ways I've replaced like scrolling on my phone with doing crochet. And so, yes, sometimes I have to look down, but for the most part, I can do like a simple pattern while watching a movie. And like, this is going to be like such nothing, but like, it's made me be able to do things like sit down and watch a whole movie without scrolling on my phone, or just other things that I kind of given up on because I felt like my attention span couldn't handle it. And then you have the added like benefit of you have like a cute hat or whatever. I do want to expand from just making hats because I think I learned how to make a hat. That was so fun because I actually will wear hats, and I kind of stuck there, but I do want to start making clothes. I almost made a piece of clothing. I want to really make a mesh situation. I love mesh looking crochet things. So yeah, today I'm going to work on these two. I'm going to go, okay, so like, here's the thing. Here's the dilemma, right? Right now I'm in Just Chatting on Twitch. But I technically, because I am making something, could be on, I think they have a makers category. I could be under there. So I'm kind of torn between going under there, where there's less people in that subcategory, but it's more if somebody's looking for somebody who's crocheting and yapping, they would go there and they might find it. But Just Chatting is like a bigger, I love a good hypothesis and scientific test. So what is it? Makers? I forget what the category is called. Makers and crafting. So it's like right now, I think Just Chatting has like 32K in it, right? Or something. I don't know. I made that up. Which a lot of people that could potentially find you. But then Makers and Crafters has about like 600 people in it, which is like not as many people, but it's like if even 5 of those people find me, they're more likely to like maybe be interested in what I'm doing. So I'll try it because I'll just go back and forth. That's one of the benefits of this kind of stuff. You can just literally trial and error. But it's so weird because I feel icky being like, I want to be found. I want to grow my audience as like a content creator, even though it's like, well, isn't that what content creation is? Because I think that's one of the things you can often feel guilty about, that like a lot of the earlier content creators, they just happened to blow up and be able to make a career out of what they did. A lot of them did not have the intention of it because it wasn't a thing when they started. I'm talking about people who started in like 2010, 2012 even, so the accusation that people are just doing it for fame and money, that literally can't really exist with them because when they started, there was no fame and money to get. But at the same time, this is a hobby or whatever you want to call it, like content creating, that takes a lot of time and things like that. So wanting to potentially get into a position where like you can free up some of your other time, because maybe you don't have to work a full-time job anymore and things like that, because you can support yourself through content creation, being upfront about that feels so icky. And I feel like sometimes people will get called out for like not doing it for the right reasons. But it's like, especially as an adult, it's like, well, imagine if your like boss is like, I feel like you just want this job to make ends meet. It's like, well, we live in a society where you have to have something that helps you make ends meet, but hopefully you get the privilege or things work out well enough for you that you can both have something that make ends meet, and also you really really like doing, and that's awesome. And even that feels sometimes like can feel really guilty, because not everyone's in that position. But yeah, that's all to say is that it feels like icky being like, oh, I would like to grow to a size where like this could be sustainable. But it's like, what really kills you about being upfront about that? Anyway, so on today's yapping, I'm going to talk about Halloween. Halloween this year was very interesting because I hung out with the crew that I usually hang out with. If you guys know me from my Daily Dose podcast, Jazz was one of them. My friend Danny, my friend Jay, a couple of my friends. And it was just so interesting because usually Halloween's such a big thing for me because I love costumes. I cosplayed for like the longest time. I just love making costumes. But this was like the first year where I was just kind of like not really thinking about it until lo and behold, it was the weekend before Halloween. And I was like, oh, I don't even know what I'm doing. Luckily, me and my friends have been doing our Halloween costumes and things like that with each other for so long. We have such like a backlog of things that we can just wear, and that's what we ended up doing. We did Kids Next Door, which we actually did last year, which is kind of funny. But yeah, we did that. But I just kind of felt like, I don't know, I feel like younger me would be disappointed that I didn't really put any thought and effort to it because I love dressing up so much. But I'm just like, this year was such a strange year for me that like I don't want another thing to beat myself up over. But it just kind of makes me sad because the idea, I think in general, that something that used to make you really, really happy, and this is like outside of talking about like, clinical depression and things like that, but like something that used to make you so happy no longer makes you happy. And I feel like people experience that with relationships that kind of grow old and kind of run their course. But I feel like, I don't know, at least I haven't heard the conversation of when that just happens with either like friends or like hobbies or activity, because I think it's like really nice to have something that's guaranteed to kind of lift your mood or get you, make you happy or something like that, especially because life is tumultuous. You never know what's going to hit you and what's going to ruin your day every time you open your eyes. So if oh my gosh, all I have to do is listen to the new 17 album or watch one of the variety shows and that will get me like hype. It's nice. It's nice to be able to be simply pleased, like in a really simple way. But when that starts wearing off and you're realizing I don't care about X, Y, and Z as much as I did before, it's kind of scary because there goes another thing that, made life enjoyable for you. So it's really hard to kind of, and again, I'm not saying that's necessarily what's happening here, but it could be. And I think recently I've been trying really hard to be honest with myself when I'm in a situation where I'm like, this doesn't feel that fun. I thought it was going to be fun. Or this conversation with this person doesn't feel that relaxing or engaging or pleasant. And I thought I was going to be really going with that and not being like, oh, I just have to try harder, or let me keep going in this very, very awful direction that I have the gut feeling is not a great direction, but I just want it to work. So I'm just going to keep trying. And I feel like that can, I don't know, that has happened for me a lot because I tend to, when I get into a hobby or a thing, I will go ham at that thing. So it's not even just the, maybe like uncomfortable like feeling that you have to change. Like if you're really into something and you're like, I really don't even like this much anymore. It's like, well, what if I built a friend circle based on this hobby? Or what if, I got a lot of my self esteem from this hobby, or I spent a lot of my quality or my free time in this hobby? If you're realizing you don't enjoy it anymore, suddenly a lot of things in your life are going to have to change, and a lot of dynamics in your life will change. And that's really hard and uncomfortable. But then it's also kind of feeling like, did I waste time, like, spending all this time and money on this thing that I don't even like anymore? And here's the thing, now that I'm saying it, I'm like, obviously not. If it brought you joy and comfort in the time, then it's not a waste. But it's really hard to reconcile that, especially as you get older, and like time is not that time's not precious when you're younger, but it's just like, okay, I need to figure stuff out because all these things are pending on my timeline and things like that. But also, if you like used money and stuff, you're like, oh, I could have been doing X, Y, and Z. Um, Speaking of that, I recently went on a binge of the streamer Dr. K. I feel like his stuff is so interesting, but it's actually funny because the reason I've known about him since he kind of blew up, since the pandemic. I think that was around when he blew up. But for you guys who don't know, he is a streamer. I think he's a psychologist. I don't know which one, but like therapy, and I think his tag is like healthy gamer GG, but he provides like mental health services and talks about like mental health concepts in relation to like anxiety, ADHD, depression, how gaming is often used as like a coping, or like as a I don't want to mischaracterize him because there's like what he stands for, and then there's like what specifically I pull out from him. But anyway, he recently had like a clip go viral because he weighed in. I wouldn't even say he weighed in, but he used the whole Hassan shocking his dog thing as a basis to kind of talk about, I don't know, just like pent up aggression and lashing out on people. And so I really loved that video, but it really frustrated me because the way it was presenting to me was hella mischaracterized, and people love to do that on the internet. But it was one of those examples of like something being uncomfortable, but true, if that makes sense. So in the video, he basically talks about how like he feels as though the response to this shocking Hassan is shocking his dog collar gate or whatever, is look at the progress. Look at it. I honestly feel like I won't have to do the full, because it's, I don't know, I'm using a much thicker yarn than I did the first time I ever made this hat, and I just feel like, I don't know, it like builds up bigger, so I don't need the full like amount that I originally did when I first made it. Okay. Uh-oh. Okay, this is foolish. Hold on. Hmm. What does this mean? Okay, sorry. I was checking on my live stream, and I realized my stream is unlisted. Now, where would that make sense on this here today? Okay, I'm gonna switch accounts. Let me try something. See, that's the I love when stakes are low. I love stakes, and I love when they're low. Okay, let's go live. Oopsies. Wait, you guys can't hear that. Yeah. Okay, let's try. Let's see if I can do this whilst I'm live. If I can do this whilst I'm live, this is actually kind of goated. Okay, so I'll go on live here. Okay, cool. And then I'll do a little bit of this. I'm so confused. Why would Okay. Cool. Okay. 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 Yeah, sorry. Technical difficulties are tip I was okay. Technical difficulties are typically difficult. I ate that up. Um, DD. Okay, let's see if this actually works. That would be madness. Okay. Is this working? Is she working? Did she work? Okay. Knit and I'll call it knit and yap because that sounds better than crochet and yap. I'll be honest, even though I've never knitted in a day in my life. Okay, there we go. Okay, she's back. Period. Okay, so what I wanted to say is that, okay, so I was watching Dr. K, and he was talking about just the fact that in whether the overall message I got was whether the response that Hassan's receiving with this shock collar gate thing is proportionate. And one of the things he got into is one of the things that like I'm trying to work on now, where there's an emotion you can have, and then there's like the truth behind that emotion, right? So a lot of people want to see like the end of Hassan, and I'm going to try to take this as objective as I can because I'm just trying to explain what he was talking about, not actually comment on the Hassan shock collar gate. But his whole, I guess, hypothesis or the idea he was trying to break down was that the hate for Hassan is like, and how what the hate he's receiving is kind of a projection of what a situation where a lot of people feel like in the world there's a lot of in a world there's a lot of people that get away with things, whether it's because they're powerful, they're rich, whatever, and never get held accountable. And so here's a case where somebody may have done something wrong, and as because they're an online content creator whose whole existence is able to be a thing because of what people online want to watch and do and think and feel. Here's a chance where if we say something or do something, that person will actually be held accountable, or at least feel the wrath of, um, you know, feel some type of punishment for what they did. And I think that's true. In a lot of ways that's true, and it's hard to admit. I'm not saying that he should do I'm not even going to comment on that because I feel like there's this thing you get into, this trap that people often get into, where they like constantly are like, okay, I'm not saying blah blah, and have to do all these disclaimers. And yes, in theory it makes sense because on the internet people like to construe. It's very much what you're saying. It's very much because I said I like waffles, somebody assumes I'm saying I hate pancakes, like that kind of thing. But I just want to focus on what he was actually saying, which is the idea of there's a lot of things that people have given up on when it comes to trying to make it fair or trying to hold people accountable, that when they do find a situation where their voices can actually be heard and cause change, they'll floor it, right? And it will get to the point where it is kind of disproportionate. And as somebody who often like feels like, oh, they don't have a lot of power, I've definitely experienced that. I've definitely done that. But I don't think it really helps anything, because you get this situation where you're still in the same situation where all these people who are getting away with things that they shouldn't be allowed to get away with continually get away because you feel like you have no power for them. But then that one person that you were able to maybe do something, now they're like pummeled to the ground. And it's like, did that really change the situation of why you're actually frustrated? And I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, I want to get to, thank you for the foster check, green ant. I want to get to the point where I'm not, I don't know. I'm not I'm actually doing stuff that help me and help the world. Okay, that maybe say, well, yeah, that like help the situation of the world and not just something that's instantly gratifying. So like dragging some random influencer to oblivion because of something they did, because I actually have influence, like writing comments and making online content discourse actually has influence in how their career trajectory goes. That is like kind of satisfying, but it's like, did that really change the Hi Leanne, what's up? Oh my god, best mod. um I'm just yapping. Should I do a reintro? So I was streaming on Twitch for a while, but and I was streaming because I'm multi-streaming right now. So I was streaming on Twitch for a while, and now I'm streaming on Twitch and YouTube. So like this YouTube VOD's gonna be like 2 seconds, and then the Twitch VOD's gonna be like 40 years. But yeah. So we chill. I'm gonna do this crochet. I'm crocheting a hat, and I'm also yapping. But I hope you're doing good. I saw your comment on my other channel about the VOD, and I was like, oh my god, Leah. But how are you doing? Honestly, I feel like it's been so long. I was just kind of talking about, I don't know. That's another thing. My train of thought is non-existent, unfortunately. So thought that this, if you thought that this was gonna make sense, you're wrong. No, just kidding. But yeah. So essentially, what I wanted to say is that, yeah, I just feel like sometimes, like, I'm trying to get to the point where I don't just do what feels good in the moment, but I do stuff that will actually build me up as a person and make me feel better long term. And so I think a lot of the time it's so easy to just kind of like drag somebody, especially if there's a figure there that you can drag. It can get any frustrations you have out in the world on. But I'm like, is that actually productive? And I also realize this is going to sound so, I have a lot of empathy. I'm such an empath. But I do realize one of the things I struggle with is that I'm very empathetic / sympathetic, but I also have like this conflicting thing in my head where I'm like, don't do that, because that's a really easy way to get and taken advantage of, or maybe taking advantage of, or not change a problem. If you're just constantly empathizing and sympathizing with somebody, sometimes that can get away with holding them accountable or holding yourself accountable. But it's like, that's just who I am, and I do see where that could be a downside, but I'm trying to act like I'm tired of acting like that's just not true, and trying to hide or bury some of my empathy and sympathy, because I feel like I don't want to be seen as weak or easily taken advantage of. I'll give you an example, or just like, I don't know, woo woo. My example was, so recently there was that ongoing debate thingy. No, I don't know why. Okay, that's fine. Doing all right. Just trying to get through the Monday. I know how it feels. Me too. I think that's why I'm streaming on Monday, because I'm just like, Monday tends to be really drab. So at least I can do something fun. Have you been watching or listening to anything fun? Reading anything? But yeah, I realized I was very sympathetic and empathetic, and that's very hard because this world doesn't really, you can't really benefit from that, and it's really easy to get played. But anyway, my point was the whole thing with New Jeans. So for those of you guys don't know, New Jeans is a South Korean girl group who was literally on the top of their game until a whole scandal happened. At this point, is it 2 years ago, or was this still last year? I can't remember. This whole scandal happened with their CEO of their company, because they were on a company that was a subsidiary of a bigger company, and their CEO basically accused the larger label they're under of trying to sabotage her, trying to copy her specific groups that she makes and her ideas and bring it to the larger label. They were trying to get rid of her, yada yada yada. This whole back and forth happens. It essentially ends up with the CEO of their label getting ousted, and now their label is under a different management, but they really don't like that because they feel like they're on their old CEO's side. They feel like their CEO's done wrong. So they're essentially saying they want to leave their now label because it's not under management of their former CEO. So it's been really, really messy. And at first, I feel like most people were sympathetic to them, somewhat sympathetic to their CEO, but I think as more stuff comes out, it's a bit more complicated in terms of who's on what side. And maybe it's the place where I'm reading my news, but I have noticed that there's a lot more criticism towards the girls in the group. When this whole thing started, I think most of them are teenagers, a good majority, but it's like very early 20s to teens. That's, their age, whatever. So it was very much like, what are their parents? What is the CEO? What are the adults in the situation doing? And so there's a lot of sympathy for them. But as they became like more involved and their personal statements became kind of like the center of this back and forth, a lot of people have kind of developed this narrative that, oh, they were rotten, they were greedy, they thought too highly of themselves and stuff like that. And so like I feel like every time this situation comes up and people want to discuss it, I feel awkward because I have sympathy for these girls. I will never be like they should have known better, because there's no way you're a teenager who's commanding billions of dollars and better. I just don't think it's realistic. If you, as like a 20-something or a 19-year-old or whatever, somehow manage to know better, I think you're the anomaly, personally. But I feel like I'll always have sympathy for the fact that adults basically use them as chess pieces. And yes, do they have their own agency? Yes, but I feel like I'm starting to realize a lot of things. You can have your own agency, but that doesn't mean every decision's made in a vacuum. People are still influenced by their upbringing when they're a child, their community, their whatever, people who are close to them. So even if they do have free will, that doesn't change the fact that they like grew up in, I think they were training for a while. So like they really all started these things as very young kids. So I'm not going to blame them. I'm not going to demonize them. It might also be the age difference. Like, I see 20 as a little baby. Like, I know a lot of people will be like, that's an adult, but to what extent? You were a teenager 2 years ago, And that's not to woobify or take away anyone's autonomy, but I feel like that's just the truth. Unless you were like in very dire circumstances, you still are very young at that age and have a lot of life to live, I personally think, before you can see. Like, I was just thinking, the stuff that I did when I was younger, that like to me now, it was just like, that makes no sense. Like, one of the things that I really love that I'm hearing about the younger generation is the lack of like alcohol consumption. And I know that there's also a very extreme side who's like drink every day, get blacked out every night. I don't know. It depends on what side of TikTok you're on, I guess. But I think that's so great because I'm fine now, but I really sometimes think of some of my choices in relation to alcohol and wanting to party when I was in like college and stuff, that I was like, oh, so you're crazy, because it's just kind of like, it doesn't make, like, I cannot add it out to make sense. And it's not about, because I also think academics and being social, having like a friend base that you feel comfortable around, feel like you can be yourself around, feel like will support you, is extremely important to every human, I think. But you don't need to do that by like getting, completely wasted on a Sunday night when you have like an 8 a.m. lecture, that kind of thing. It's like, that doesn't really make sense. Like, I would find another way to like build a community and have friends and hang out with them. But it's just like, yeah, for my 21-year-old mind who really cared about partying, really cared about being popular, really cared about having like a certain college experience, no, of course, I'm going to go to that party, stay out till 4 a.m. and then go get ready for like 9 a.m. lecture. And I guess there's also the added thing that you can kind of bounce back from that better when you're younger. But it's just kind of like, yeah, that is youth brain at its finest, right? And I don't know, to an extent, I guess it makes sense because it is a time where maybe your body wouldn't be as effective doing crazy stuff like that and getting limited sleep. But it's crazy in general, or like literally like not eating more than once a day and stuff like that. Well, that's eating disordered brain, but that can also be seen as like youth brain. But yeah, I don't know. I will never like really sympathize with the idea that there are these evil people, and no matter what you think about it, they're going to have to live with the consequences of their decisions, obviously, because Min Hee Jin done, made a whole new label, and is moving on. I don't even know if they're still in contact with her while they're still trying to fight this Adore thing. So that's going to be awkward. And I think I read somewhere that, if Adore, because there was this decision that they still have to be under Adore, and then they're trying to appeal it. So if this appeal goes nowhere, then they'll have to be under Adore till like 2029 or something like that. And a lot of people are questioning whether Adore, as kind of like, I don't know, retribution, will like not really have them come back very much. Although I also read that somebody said if they do that, then New Jeans might actually have like a grounds to be like, oh, you're mistreating us. But I don't know. But it's just kind of like, I just will never not have sympathy for a very young person like that having to grapple with multi-million-dollar decisions because they sing and dance. That's like really hard. Leanne says, I'm so bad. Oh, I need to get, what is this, StreamYard? I'm so behind on K-dramas or even Asian dramas in general, but I did watch the first Now You See Me movie last night because I saw the third one is coming up and I wanted to watch the first two before seeing the third. I heard that movie was really good. I think it was my brother that was saying it was really good. I feel like I've been getting a lot of, like, that movie has been like very much, like, I've been hearing about it a lot. And now that you're saying that the third one comes out, I feel like that makes a lot more sense. I was like, why do I keep seeing this movie? But how would you rank it? I feel like I would really like it. I just need to make time to watch it. I've also been currently slowly rereading a book called Black Sun. It's a fantasy and I'm hoping to finish and finally continue this series. Ooh, what is it about? Also, how many books are in the series? I recently, because I never watched The Hunger Games. No, actually, no, I never watched The Hunger Games, but I was like, there when it was a phenomenon. And recently, a lot of people, I think probably because there was like a new book released from the series, and then they're making the movie about like, I don't even know, Haymitch's life or whatever. Somebody was like, oh yeah, it's really good. You should read it. Now, granted, this is a young adult novel, aim for, I don't know what is considered young adult now because I feel like all the demographics are shifting. I enjoyed the first one. I thought it was really good. I read all three of the original. The second, it started to kind of lose its gaggery. Like at first I was gagged. The first one ate that up. Second one, especially because I had no idea that, and obviously it ended extremely different, that the first one was basically a rehash of the second one in the sense that they go back into the Hunger Games. I thought that was crazy, but I was kind of gagged when they originally announced that they would have to do it again. But I just felt like there was a lot there, but I couldn't really pull too much out of it because it was very, like, I feel like it scratched the surface with a lot of the ideas it was talking about. I think it was kind of, I don't know. I thought I would be gagged a little more too above the love triangle because that seemed like a big deal. But I just felt like there was no indication that she was ever gonna choose not PETA. I don't know. But what really shocked me is that I watched the first movie because I was like, let me kill two birds with one stone. I'll read a book, watch the movie, read a book, watch the movie. That quickly died out because after seeing the first book or reading the first movie, I was like, what is this? I did not like it at all. I thought it was so barren. I thought it was dry. I thought it was very, and I think one of the things why I felt this way is that a lot of the story is told through like Katniss's POV, and so you get a lot of her internal dialogue, and that wasn't the case in the movie. That would probably have been really, really hard. But I feel like they didn't really fill it in much elsewhere. So I really struggled to think how somebody who didn't see the book or read the book enjoyed the movie. It just felt really empty. I don't know. I'm so aloof with New Jean's situation, but yeah. Above all else, I feel bad for the girls. They were done dirty by the adults in their life. Yeah, and I feel like when it comes to the situation and the individual girls, that's like as deep as I'll get. I know a lot of people hate Hani because, and here's the thing, I'm also only commenting on this like tangentially because I like was following it and then I stopped following it so closely. So I respect that I don't know all the nitty gritty about it. But I don't know, like, because there's a lot of people who are like mad at Hani because she made some statement about somebody being mean to her, and apparently that hurt the other person. And I do agree that doesn't deserve criticism, but I think it also is a case where it's like, when, I don't know, maybe a little well, no, I'm not saying that this is a case for everyone, but there might be a little, what is it, schadenfreude or whatever when it comes to it, because I imagine, New Jeans was a huge group. Their fans could like be very a lot with New Jeans is the second coming of Jesus. So to be able to see a group go from being top to literally, reduced to kind of nothing, that has like never really happened for a super popular group before. I feel like obviously it happened with 50/50, but they were very early on, and I feel like they were very far from solidifying themselves as like a top group. But like New Jeans was, operating as a top group. But I don't want to say, I think this is just like a side note, because I don't want to say everyone who, I know a lot of like, a take like that can easily be construed into everyone who is mad at New Jeans, is anti New Jeans, is jealous, which I don't think is the case. But like, I don't know, it's just really interesting. Like, I don't think we've ever seen anything like that in K-pop before, like a group. Maybe Tiara, probably that would be the best example. But I don't know. It's kind of crazy. Now You See Me is a little ridiculous, and definitely some parts are a little outdated, but it was a fun time. I had fun. And sometimes that's all you can ask. Black Swan is supposed to take place in America pre-Columbus and is leading up to an apocalyptic event. That sounds interesting. I love an apocalypse. But yeah, I need something new to read. So I might check that out. I'm not unpopular opinion, but I was never a huge fan of the Hunger Games. I didn't like the second book and never finished the book series. I like the movies better, but still haven't seen Mockingjay Part 2 or the new one. Yeah, I don't know if I'll go finish. Well, when the new series, I was like considering reading it just because I was like, okay, I didn't love it, but there were definitely parts. Like, I think that's always the hardest thing when you have a series or like some type of media where it's like, it wasn't great and you didn't love it, but there are aspects of it I really enjoyed, and then parts that I thought were really good. So it's like, then I'm kind of stuck because I'm like, do I continue this because it's somewhat a little like caused me joy, or do I just like completely abandon it because I'm like, well, this wasn't good enough like for me to like spend this much more time in it. But yeah, I was really shocked to like seeing, rereading and stuff like that it became the phenomenon it was, because it just wasn't that interesting to me. I don't know. But for some reason, like, my brain was super Tumblr brain, because I was like, oh my gosh, the one thing I remember about, I guess, the second book, was how much Tumblr wanted the character Finnick to be played by Jesse Williams. Like, for some reason, that was the one thing that I was like, I kept thinking about. So I naturally, when I was reading the book, pictured him as Jesse Williams. But yeah. Was one of your gripes about the second book that it seemed kind of like a rehash, or was it just like how it was written, or you didn't think it was that interesting? Because I felt like I don't know, I felt like it was just kind of all over the place. And I feel like, I don't know, the whole like, who's the real enemy works, but like, I feel like you have to actually like go into detail about that. It just kind of was like, I don't know. After a while, I was just like, I don't know. It was okay. I think at the time it was just kind of exciting to be like, oh my God, I'm participating in this thing that was a big deal at one point. And now it's like, I think the writing style in general was not for me. That's fair. I definitely, okay, I don't want to be a hater, but some of the times where it was just like, Katniss is the chosen one, I don't know, it became kind of like, okay, we get it. Like, it just became kind of a lot. And then like the way it became like, and I get the idea that like propaganda is really powerful, but it's just like when half the scenes or whatever were just her filming like commercials and stuff, I was like, okay. But yeah, I'm just so surprised that that first movie was as big as it was, because it just, to me, was not good. It was really boring. And it just felt really cold and quiet and empty. I don't know if that makes sense. Um, but yeah. Oh, wait, I had some notes of things I wanted to talk about. Let me see if I actually wrote them well. My notes app has so many half ideas. Oh, oh yeah. So yeah, what I was talking about before was Dr. K and Hassan. Okay, Dr. K, the streamer, he's like a mental health streamer. He made a video about how Hassan, the whole shocking his dog gate, and the point of the video was not whether he actually thinks Hassan shocked him or not, but the discussion around whether he shocked him or not, and whether he thinks that the situation is drawing an unproportionate response to like what the actual situation. And then he goes into the idea that a lot of people might be using this situation as kind of like a stand-in for situations that happen in everyone's life where there's some person that they don't have the power to hold accountable. So therefore, when they do find somebody that they actually have power to hold accountability, they maybe sometimes overshoot the response, because it's just like this person is a stand-in for every time they were wronged, every time somebody got away with something, and how that could be messed up. And so that had me kind of thinking about how that does happen a lot on like social media, I think, where it's just like, it's scary because when you put yourself out there, as like a social media person or just any type of famous person or well-known person, you kind of, it's like that whole concept, I think, of the death of the author, where it's like when you put something out, it doesn't matter, not that it doesn't matter, but like how you originally visioned it to be interpreted is kind of lost to the fact that everyone has their own experiences, and their own, thoughts that will influence what they take out of it and what the kind of discussion of what that means. I think that's what it's about. And I think that's kind of true too, but on like an individual human level, when you take somebody who's like a public figure, because I think in this situation where people, I mean, I think that's where you get like parasocialism a lot of the time, but where it's just like, Hassan can, in this situation, represent to a lot of people like that rich person or that privileged person or what have you, just some person in their life that constantly gets away with stuff, or people that they have had in their life that constantly gets away with stuff, and because they're just so powerful or so well liked, they never get held to that responsibility. And I feel like what's interesting though is that we're seeing that in this way, how that can be like really bad. But I've also seen like in terms of the individual, because they'll get like dragged for certain things in a way that like maybe you wouldn't drag somebody you actually knew in your real life or whatever. But I think it's interesting to see how that works in like other ways too. As somebody who grew up on like liking anime, and when like English voice actors, I mean, maybe it's still the case, I don't know, because I'm kind of out of that scene, but like English voice actors were like gods to a lot of anime fans. And I think I was one of the ones that really would look into English voice actors and things like that. And I get the fact that you can like somebody who maybe portrays somebody really well or acts really well, but I feel like what the obsession and just like the fandom and pandemonium that was around these actors and stuff like that was like people trying to put their love and affection for a character into something that would actually respond back. And by that I mean like what a lot of these people were actually in love with were the characters. So it's like, for example, I don't know, who's somebody, I remember back in the day before his whole stuff, Vic Mignogna was a voice actor who played a lot of really popular characters like Edward Elric, Tamaki Suo from The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, Who else? He played a lot of people. He's been around for a while. He, even at that time, he was around for a while. And I think he kind of was able to develop this like cult boy band-esque fandom, where people would like go to his panels at cons, like join his fan club and all this stuff. And I'm not saying, well, let me not comment as him on an individual at the time, because I don't know what he was getting up to. But like, I think it was kind of interesting because it is kind of random for all these people to just be super obsessed with this guy that voice acts. But I think what I was actually seeing was that people love Elric. People love Tamaki Suo. But Tamaki Suo and Elric will never respond back to your love. You can never, you know? So the next best thing is like, well, this person sounds like them. They're like invoking one sense that reminds you of them, I guess. So let me obsess with this person, and low key what I'm doing is projecting everything that I think about Tamaki or Edward onto you, but like you reaping the benefits of it. And I think a lot of people would compartmentalize it enough to be like, okay, I know that this is Vic Mignogna, not Edward Elric, but he does Edward Elric's voice, so I want to give him gifts, I want to do that, I want to be obsessed with him, yada yada yada, because this is the closest thing I'm actually going to be that will actually be that I can get to what am I saying? This is the closest I can actually get to talking to Edward Elric, or my favorite anime character. And I just think it's interesting because while there was like a clear separation there's one instance I saw that kind of was like, I don't want to say uncanny, but kind of made me kind of, I don't know, so like uncomfortable, maybe sad, maybe, I don't know, because I don't know, but I'll just explain it. So I went to Philadelphia Comic-Con, I think it was, or Fan Fest or whatever, some years ago. And the thing is, I'm not really a fan of, I love how I'm like, okay, I'll yap and crochet, and I can't even do that. I'm not really a fan of comics, but, you know, when there's like a general Comic-Con, I found that you tend to be able to find content on like anime somewhere, because I'm actually like an anime nerd, if anything. But yeah, so one of the panels there was, and I have to look this up, I completely forgot her name, but the voice actress who plays Naruto, what's her name? Naruto's VA. Oh, is it Marley? I don't know, Flanagan. And I think she's played him for like 20 years now. Like, it's been a long ass time. But yeah, it was really interesting because, so usually I've been to, like I said, I was a huge fan of anime voice actors when I was growing up. So I've definitely been to some, you know, panels, was a huge fan of like Johnny and Bosch and all them, and have watched them online since I was like in middle school. So, you know, I wasn't new to seeing what a voice actor panel was, seeing people be super obsessed with them, yada yada yada. But there was just a phenomenon that I never witnessed that like kind of just set off alarm bells in my head. So it went beyond people being like, there are definitely people who are like, oh my gosh, I'm such a fan of your work, can you tell me how to get into voice acting, can you tell me your favorite line you said of Naruto, to people going up, taking the mic and being like, I just want you to know your dad would be really proud of you. And it's not that the like Miley Flanagan, I hope I'm not pronouncing her name wrong, it's not that her dad would be proud of her, but that Naruto's dad would be proud of him. So they were telling her, not saying I think Naruto's, they were saying your dad would be proud of you. And my thing is, she must have been used to this because she was getting these comments and just being like, thank you, like great, like, but it was like, I was so confused because I was like, well, you know, she's not Naruto. But like, it was like people weren't, I don't know. It just was really strange to me. But it kind of made sense because it's like, yeah, you are the closest thing I'll ever get to being able to tell Naruto, somebody's story, you know, who made a big impact in my life that I really enjoyed, that his dad was proud of them, or that I really loved you, or that you're like a really good ninja. You're the closest that I'll get to that. So I'm going to tell you and completely remove the fact that you're not actually this 2D character. But it's just kind of like, it's kind of weirded me out, but also it kind of made me think like, wow, this is like a very raw depiction on, I think, what happens on some level with like when people really obsess over characters, or just in general, like social media content creators. Like, I think that's what I was trying to get at, where it's just like a lot of people grew up obsessing over, 2D fake characters that you could get mad at, that you could yell at, but you weren't really, unless you took it as far as like, deciding that the voice actor or the actor that portrays this person is that person, you kind of really just like stuck to making fan fiction or talking about it on message boards and stuff like that. But with the content creators, I feel like people are doing the same thing, like connecting with somebody who to them is like a character, but they feel like they know on a deeper level. And it can become really, really messy. Yeah. I don't know if I conveyed my opinion, but it probably wasn't a full-fledged thought. It was just me like having inklings of a thought or whatever. But I don't know. I just really connected that Dr. K video about, stand-ins and essentially taking it out on somebody, taking out your frustrations on somebody who like can be like a straw man or a stick man or whatever you would call it for whatever grievance you have. But yeah, I don't know. I thought I would have gotten farther with this. What's up? I feel like I'm only at 9 rows. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, actually no, I 8. So if this is 10, that means I have 8 more rows to go. And actually, I'm on 9, so I have 9 more rows to go. But yeah, I also wanted to talk about how I think I mentioned before about how like I'm coming to terms with I'm a very sympathetic and empathetic person, and how I've tried to kind of like hide that or change that because I don't want to come off as weak or easily taken advantage of or naive or dumb or something like that. But like now I'm just trying to lean in to that more and just be like, okay, I know that there's some caution that I have to have around knowing I'm like this, but it's not necessarily bad to be like this. People are different. But what it is really hard is when I have empathy or sympathy for somebody who like can still be really harmful. So like when somebody gets into a scandal or something like that, for example. I mean, I'm talking more of people in real life that affect my real life, but like, in a relatable way, when I have sympathy for somebody who gets into a scandal or is being dragged or has lashings, and it's hard because it's like, yeah, I understand how this person's harmful and stuff like that, but I still have sympathy for them. Is the crochet crocheting a little? You think so? This could make a cute tube top situation if it was a little bigger too. Maybe hat with matching tube top. Did I just start my own fashion line? What's going on? But one of the things that just kind of made me so uncomfortable was the situation with Patrick from Love is Blind. So full disclaimer, I don't recommend the most recent season of Love is Blind to anyone. It's so weird because I haven't watched Love is Blind in 3,000 years, but for some reason something compelled me to watch this season, and truly I think one of the worst seasons ever. Spoiler, well actually let me not put a spoiler, you don't even have to know the spoiler to really understand, but one of the storylines in there was about an Asian, half Chinese, half Cambodian man named Patrick, and this season took place in Denver. And so, I mean, I've never been there, but apparently it's very high white population. And so this guy was dealing with some internal, and this is not how he necessarily described it on the show, but a lot of internal self-esteem in relation to growing up in an all-white space as somebody who is not white and like wanting to fit in. And he kind of talked about, like having people say that, oh, he's like hot for an Asian guy, as a way to kind of discount them, and how that was really, really hard growing up and stuff like that. And he kind of gets in a situation where he starts dating the pods, a woman who is white, and there's like this really awkward scene where he mentions that he was like bullied essentially for his ethnicity, and she's like, well, what ethnicity are you? And then it becomes really, really awkward, and it takes him a while before he kind of admits or says what he is. And the girl on the other side was like, oh, well, like my family's very open-minded, my brother has an Asian wife, like all these things and stuff. So it's really, really awkward because a lot of people saw it as him being like, I'm embarrassed that I'm Asian. I feel less than, I put white people on a pedestal, like, the kind of, I have to prove that I'm good enough for like, a certain type of person and stuff. And I was like very, watching him have low self-esteem was very embarrassing for a lot of people. Like that was a sentiment I get. And I thought it was like, because I could see, especially as maybe if you were like an Asian person, it's like, set you back 1,000 years or whatever. But I also like was shocked at the lack of empathy people had for his low self-esteem, because it didn't, develop in a bubble. I think if you're able to experience that and come out, still, loving yourself and still, having high self-esteem and realizing that those bullies were in the wrong, blah, blah, that's good. But I also think it's equally as possible that a situation like that results in a man who's severely insecure about his ethnicity and things like that. And like, I do understand and I agree with the sentiment that like you have to make the choice to like do the work to heal yourself. But I just feel like having no sympathy that that's something that could happen and result in somebody having extremely low self-esteem and never feeling like they were good enough is really weird. And I just feel like having empathy for that is not crazy. But if you let the internet tell it, like, this guy's pathetic, and I feel like people agree he needs to go to therapy, but they like, you need to go to therapy, parentheses, derogatory, you know what I mean? Like, it's not because they truly are like, you need to help yourself. It's like, get out of here, you're embarrassing us, that kind of thing. And I just feel like why I get so confused when empathy is not like extended. Now he did move weird in a lot of different ways in that show, so I think 12 things can be true at once. But I just am so kind of shocked for the lack of empathy for somebody who clearly is deeply traumatized from bullying and racism growing up. And I feel like if we're not even able to address people who were victims and thus suffered long-term effects of racism and bullying, then like don't act like, you can't be against it, but then you're like, oh, if you're a victim of it and show signs that you were a victim of it and struggle, shut the heck up, you're embarrassing yourself. Like, that's very weird. I avoid Western reality shows like the plague. It's funny because I love Korean variety shows, but Western reality shows stress me out. Specifically the dating ones, I think. But I feel like it's been a while, but I know there was that Korean dating show, Singles Inferno, that was so popular for the longest time. That one kind of stressed me out too. Not as so much the content, but like the discussions that always happened afterwards were such a mess, because people would become diehard fans of certain contestants, and that always for some reason results in like harassing other contestants and then complaining about who's popular and stuff like that. And it's always a mess. But I will start avoiding them like the plague, I think, because I don't know, well, at least the dating ones. I don't know, are there any what are like the non-dating Western like reality variety shows? Because if I guess the equivalent would be like Dancing with the Stars and stuff, which I'm not really that interested in. But I don't know. I feel like Korean dating shows are messy. There's one that I saw that's like a Korean Japanese dating show. I feel like it's so random, but basically I forget what it's called, but I watched the first episode on Netflix. Ooh, crap. I forgot to put my stitch marker in, or I think maybe it fell off. I think this would be it. It was so weird, but it was basically a show about they take 4 Japanese actresses and 4 Korean male actors, and essentially they live in a house together, and each week they compete. You pick a partner, and then the show will have a scene where you have to act it out together. And then so all the couples or pairs will act out a scene together, and then there'll be like a panel of judges who votes for who did it the best, and then whoever wins gets to actually film that scene, and be the star of that episode or whatever. So the idea though is that can being made to kiss and being made to do love scenes make a like environment where two actors will legitimately fall in love. So they're trying to see if putting these people in their room into a house together, making them act out love scenes and kiss each other for like every single like project, could that result in one of them falling in love? And I'm like, this is the worst hypothesis ever hypothesized. Not the worst, but like, duh, this has happened before. Like, what do you mean? Literally, this happens so many times. Like, I'm like, this is, I guess the kind of interesting thing is that since it's Korean guys and Japanese girls, there's like a language barrier. So that's kind of interesting. But I'm like, what is the point of this? But it was like, I don't know. I guess they're rookie-ish actors though, because in the first challenge they all got dragged. Like the person who was facilitating or judging the first one was like, all y'all are kind of trash, if I'm being quite honest. And I was like, dang, they ate y'all up. I don't know. The eating was intense. Okay, so I don't see, the thing is, like, I'm gonna finish this on principle, but I really don't like this color scheme anymore. I really should have used this light gray. I love it so much, and I should have used it, but I didn't. So what about it? No, I think I have this weird thing where it's just like I'm always between just try something, who knows how it will turn out, and then also like, okay, if you don't like the way something's going, you should probably change what you're doing. And I feel like I kind of am just like, I don't know. Between the two, I'm not sure. I don't know. But yeah. So, oh. But I'll finish this one out. I could never do these dating shows because that is another thing. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like they're psychological torture and they're just so heartless. Like, some of these like selection ceremonies where it's like, I don't know, if somebody doesn't choose you, you're just left up there alone. It's really hard. Like, you really have to be locked in with whoever you're trying to partner up with, or you're gonna like humiliate yourself. Well, not really humiliate yourself, just kind of get rejected, but it's really hard. But yeah, some of the, especially because like, for example, the Singles Inferno one, that one's kind of notorious for like, it will be like, on each side, honestly, there'll be like one or two contestants that are really popular that everyone wants to date, and then everyone else is paid dust. So in particular, though, there's usually like a somebody, and I remember this happening on the girls' side a couple times, where they just aren't, nobody's picking them. Like, and it's just like at one point it's like, why are they here? And then like at the end they like end up in like a relationship that's only out of, well, like somebody had to pick them type thing. And it just is like, this is torturous, because it's not even like that person is inherently unattractive or appealing. It's just that for the group they picked, which, to be fair, a lot of times it is influencers and people who are trying to become famous, that one person is not popular among them. So I imagine what damage that might do to your like psyche. Just being like coming on, because usually I feel like, especially nowadays, for like shows like that, they like pick people who are conventionally attractive. So coming on thinking, oh my god, I'm so, in my real life I get so much attention, I'm so good looking, and then you immediately just being like repeatedly ostracized and kept out of the discussion, or kept out of like being able to go on the dates or whatever, your whole experience there. Like, I feel like that would have me quantum crashing out. Okay, I keep checking as if I finished this one row. I'm trying to think, since I know that this is going to be like not groundbreaking, not transcending, I'm trying to think what else I could do to it to make it kind of interesting. But I feel like what's killing it is the color scheme. It's too dark. It's too similarly toned colors that are next to each other. I was trying to think. So it took me an hour. I also am trying to like make crochet stuff for my family and friends for Christmas, like as their Christmas gifts. And I'm like trying to low key figure out how long it takes me to make certain things so I know when I should start working on this stuff. But I don't know. I never get a good count because I never just do a project continuously. I'll just pick it up and maybe do like a row or two when I have some free time. But this actually started last night, and I think I did a little over an hour to get 6 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 or 7. I did not even mean that. And so then I took another hour to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the difference is I've been kind of stopping in between this. So I think maybe it takes me an hour. I just don't think that's true. An hour to do 6 rows, I don't think that's true. I think I do it faster than that. I just have to be locked in. Like if I'm locked in. But I guess I'm never really locked in, especially for a pattern like this, since it's a bunch of the same stitches again. So maybe I shouldn't actually calculate when I'm at peak locked inness. How long does this take me to do? But that's one of the things. Like immediately when I started crocheting, there are so many people in my life that are like, "You need to make this a business." But it's just like I don't think I like the idea, and I think I talked about it a little bit my last stream, but I don't love the idea of having to do anything, especially creative. Like I like being able to be like, okay, I'm not making this because somebody wanted me to make this. I'm making it because I liked the colors and I decided to make it. So it's hard. It's hard. Anyway, I'm actually, let me go to 10. I was gonna wrap it up because I wanted to, just be on here for an hour and kind of just yap. Also, excuse my voice. I went to a haunted house on Friday and they got me. They got me good. They really did. And now my voice is like still facing the repercussions of that, which is really bad because I started voice lessons a few weeks ago. And I feel like when my voice sounds like this, I don't want to practice. I don't think I should practice, right? That'll be bad for my vocals. So, as soon as something feels like work, my will to do it evaporates. Exactly. And I'm like, people are like, make your hobbies like your full-time job because you love doing it. I'm like, as soon as it strays from being a hobby, I will no longer love doing it. So that's where you're wrong. But it would be cool, really cool if it wasn't like that. I don't know. Because I would say the only way, because I follow a lot of like crocheters on Instagram, and a lot of them seem to make things up, make patterns, and then that's how they do it. I've seen a couple other people that will like just make whatever they want and then at the end of the month sell it. That seems a little more sustainable because at least I'm still making what I want. But then the problem there is like, if people don't buy it. I don't know. I always immediately feel trapped. And it's like, okay, you have to do this. I like the idea of just being able to sit down and do something. Okay. Ooh, wait, the inside kind of eats, except this part. Also, another like, maybe not instant gratification, but nice gratification about picking up like a creative hobby is that like, it's a low stakes way to kind of build self-esteem. Okay, let me not say it like that, but it's really nice to be like, oh my gosh, the first time I ever did this stitch, I sucked and it was ugly. And now it's being like, oh, I can smoothly like do different techniques like switching colors, working it around, and I don't even have to think about it. Like it's cool to see ways you improve because I feel like you don't get that a lot as an adult. Like